Hello there. Welcome to episode 89 of JagaVision. I'm your host, Jared Nyberg. I'm co-owner of JagaSilk. You can check out our stuff at jagasilk.com. I am doing these weekly sessions where we bring on some really amazing guests and we make some yummy teas and we have a really good time. So if you want to check out old shows, go to youtube.com/jagasilk. You can always click subscribe if you want to find out when they're coming out. Last week we were talking about food pairings. Actually, a couple weeks in a row we've been talking about that, tea and food, tea and dessert. This week we have a really special guest joining us from the Squamish First Nation, Wyss. I actually had the good fortune of speaking with her for the Victoria Tea Festival Revival, which I was also co-hosting. With this run by the International Tea Appreciation Society. And we had a really great time. I learned a lot about sustainable harvesting, a little bit about her project. I felt like the conversation could have gone on for hours and hours and hours. She's quite a boisterous, joyful person, and what an awesome talk it was. So she's agreed to join us again, or I guess for the first time for JagaVision, and so she'll be on at around 1:15. So generally what I like to do for these shows whenever the time allows is I love to drink a tea that I've never had before. And I don't think I've had an opportunity to do that this year so far, but I just got a whole bunch of tea samples from the owner of the Doak estate in Bihar. He likes to share with me some of the selections that he gets from his friends. And in this case, he sent me some really nice stuff from Darjeeling. There's a farm there, an organic, I think they're organic. They're called Avongrove. And I thought it would be kind of cool to give it a try. It's a fall harvest tea. And it smells really good. Yeah, this actually smells really good. Just gonna preheat my gaiwan here. And I'm gonna just go for a 5-gram dose. And I'm actually gonna just make this tea as if it were a Chinese tea. So this is not how I would normally make a Darjeeling. Normally how I make a Darjeeling, especially say a first flush, is I drop that temperature way down. Sometimes as low as 70 or 80 degrees centigrade. I do a 3.5-minute infusion, and then I give it a go. But this one, I want to make 5 grams. And I'm going to go like Mr. Chen. He was on the show from Phoenix Mountain talking about how nice it is to have a tea when you've really dosed it high and you do these flash infusions. So just want to kind of give that a try. I'm a little bit scared to go all the way to 100 degrees. We'll probably get there. But for today, this beautiful muscat grape like aromatic is gonna be hit with 90 degrees C. Just gonna check what I eyeballed here on the scale. Okay, didn't tear the scale, so that was a little bit of a useless exercise. And let's just go right away like Chen likes to do. So that's a big fat dose of tea. And we're gonna drop it into the decanter here and give this a try. So smelling amazing. I'm pretty excited for this. Okay. Oh yeah. Smells great. Yeah. That's delicious. Yeah, really, really nice. Kind of perfumey. Kind of like drinking a sweet flower. Little under extracted. I think that's a surprise because I put so much tea in there. I was expecting really unpleasant bitterness, but pleasantly surprised here. that is not the case. Let's give it a little bit more time and see what happens. Yeah, this is from Avongrove in Darjeeling. Should probably get all these off of here. So many samples. Kind of fun to see that. We actually we were going through an old well, not an old, but like a box of our Tinali estate Assam CTC that we'd also been able to negotiate through the owner of the Doak estate, and yeah, it was kind of fun to find the bag of samples in there. He mentioned that they were in there, but there was like 8 big 25 kilogram boxes of tea, and it was hard to figure out what was what. So what a nice smelling cup. I find that one of the ways that I can tell if a tea is good is how the cup smells when I'm done drinking. That layer of tea oil, just something else. Yeah, it's nice. A little bit more aggressive. I shouldn't have steeped it for a full 30 seconds there. Probably would have been smarter to cut it back a bit. But that's all right. It's all right. Yeah, no, I'm into this. So that's the Avongrove estate. I think if I were to do it again, I would brew that second infusion a little bit shorter. But I can imagine this tasting quite nice with something sweet. Maybe a scone. Yeah, go old school. Yeah, very good. Okay. Yeah, what's interesting about Darjeeling is that the region is often just sort of it's used as a tea style when in fact it's a region. So you say, oh, I like Darjeelings, So I think that because crimson tea, or what we call black tea in North America, is so prevalent in the area, that when you say Darjeeling, that's the style of tea that you're talking about, and it's a lighter oxidation. What's kind of fascinating is that it's a light oxidation for a crimson tea, and what that means is you're looking at about, you're getting close to that 80% moisture loss via that enzymatic oxidation withering process. And you'll find that when it starts to smell like apples, apparently is the moment that they're going to do the kill green process. They're going to deactivate the enzyme with a bunch of heat. And in Darjeeling, that process is done earlier and earlier and earlier, to the point where really what I'm drinking here is more like a dark oolong rather than a technical crimson tea. And there's many that would argue that there's a lot of teas out there that are like that are misranked or put in the wrong category. Because what are these categories? It's just kind of a way of understanding that manipulation of the tea leaves in a way that sort of helps to sort of organize them into categories, right? But what does it mean? Yeah, it's sort of just a creation, right? Like a lot of mapping and cartography is anyway. Okay, so my guest is going to join me in a couple minutes here, hoping that it all works out, that we're on the same, none of the usual technical glitches happen, which has unfortunately been a hallmark of me navigating this show and trying to run that connection piece at the same time as drinking tea with you. Okay, so I'm going to go for a flash infusion this time. Darjeeling, a little bit more word about it is that it is definitely a region that could create other teas. Again, because it's kind of like a false category and to begin with, to just sort of like break everything up this way. But it's a way of understanding it. But It's also useful to know that because Camellia sinensis, the tea plant, is responsible for making white teas, green teas, crimson teas, blue teas, black teas, etc. You're gonna find that a region that's famous for a particular style, Japan, for example, very famous for green teas, still has the option of making oolongs or crimson teas. It's just that since they're so well known for their hallmark genre, they just find a harder time getting an audience or buyers for anything that's off the beaten path, be it domestically. International sales, I think, are a little bit more, there's a little bit more potential there, with a kind of a growing audience of folks that are interested in something that's a little bit different. So it's interesting to have white teas from Darjeeling, for example. Assam is very similar in that it's just so closely associated with the style, with the crimson tea style, that and a bassy one at that when they make anything different, it's somewhat of a surprise. It's like, what do you mean a white tea from Assam? I thought Assam was a tea, It's definitely an issue that industries, that the tea industry is often interacting with. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can't encourage my guests to join me by adding them in the background here. So if you'll bear with me, I will try. And in a perfect world, we're gonna see my guests join me right quick here. Okay. But while we're waiting for them, drink another bit of this. So yeah, it's been a very interesting time recently. Oh, and it looks like I have a guest joining me. Oh, is that Cease or is that Sherri? I can't actually see. Oh, it's Cease. Hey, hello, Cease. Okay, fantastic. All right, we'll see you in a moment. Okay. Oh, there you are. Oh, oh, it's having a hard time keeping the screen going. I wonder what that's all about. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So welcome, Cease, to JagaVision. You're making it. Okay, amazing. So I was just telling the viewers that that you and I had a chance to meet during the tea festival when we were doing the International Tea Appreciation Society's festival, and you came on the show, and I had my co-host there, Ryan, and we had a great chat with you about what you do at Raven Hummingbird and as a harvester, and talking a little bit about your project there in Squamish, which was super exciting, and I'm really felt like we could have talked for hours and hours and hours. So I'm really glad that you decided to come on the show again. Oh, I guess it's not again. It's the first time on JagaVision, but so welcome. Awesome. So yeah, thank you for joining. Do you want to tell everybody watching a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do? Very cool. Okay. Nice. Right. Mhm. Nice. Yeah. But not there's no that's JagaSilk started that way too. Not that you're in your infancy as a business at all, but we had I remember people showing up at our door. They'd look us up on Google, and I'm like, actually, we're operating out of our home. I don't have any sort of way of doing this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, right. And sometimes they just show up, and it's like, no. Oh, geez. Okay. Sure. Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. We'll figure this out. We'll figure this out. That's awesome. I don't know if you knew this, but JagaSilk, I don't know if I mentioned it our last talk, was started due to my wife's fascination and mine as well with the healing power of plants. And Miu is Japanese, and we started out by just focusing on matcha green tea. And so I don't know if you can see it behind me, but we have a mill behind me, and we actually mill our matcha fresh here in Victoria, and we did on the show. Yeah, it's pretty. It works, hey? Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, well, nice. You can do that. Okay, well, we'll have to send you some. I would love your feedback on some of our tea. You've been so it's been so lovely to have the selections from you, and you know we are I guess in our 17th year, going into our 18th actually. Oh my goodness, wow, time flies, hey. And yeah, we for first 5 years it was just all on that, but a big thing for us has always been this focus on matcha. And then what we did is we started to bring out some loose teas and some tea lattes, and we actually brew kombucha now. So we have a good time here. And one of the projects I did when I took a class with Nancy Turner was this. I was really fascinated by how amazing it would be to work with different communities and harvest what settlers call Labrador tea, and what we would name after whatever that particular nation was calling it. So the Kwakwaka'wakw call it Puyas, and the Quadacha First Nation call it Timizkik. And so we would just, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but but we would try, and then we tried to make it Makwam. Oh, very cool. Okay, there's the. Oh, cool. Okay, so Makwam. So and I actually had your Makwam with my team here at JagaSilk. We always do a cupping every Friday morning, and the last cupping of 2021, we were like, we're doing this, and we had it, and it was just so good. I made it in a gaiwan like this. I went all like, I kind of combined like old school Chinese preparation technique with this. Yeah. Right. I like to. I know there's probably like a very specific methodology, and I really want to respect that too. But I love to have fun with it as well, and see what kinds of flavors we can produce. And anyways, it was delicious. It was so good. A lot of people cut their makwam into shorter sort of, it's called cut and sifted. But I'm such a fan of just keeping the leaf whole, because you get right. Right, right. Oh, interesting. Huh. Yeah. Well, Camellia sinensis is the great example. You know, the when you're growing the tea plant in Japan, they harvest it in the spring, right out coming out of the cold. And apparently, it's like when it's producing the really young leaves, and it takes a while to bring, for them to form. They call it the flavor is riding the leaf. So you can see it, and then if you're in, you can start to smell it. And if you pick too soon, the aromatics haven't had a chance to collect on the surface of the leaf. But if you pick at just the right moment, then you get this really, this really, and it depends on the region, and it depends on the tea garden. It depends on the variety. So I think it's just so fascinating, just how plants are so complex, eh? And yeah. Mm. So. Mm. So it's I guess that right. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Hmm. Right. Totally. There's a very important uh, um, traditional medicine component of walking the forest and harvesting. And there's also an interesting. Have you ever heard of shinrin-yoku before? It's a Japanese concept that translates as forest bathing, and so it's like a way. Uh, yeah, yeah, right, and just like. Yeah, 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 totally. But apparently it's the aromatics that the trees produce, and it's a way of actually really nurturing the spirit. And I guess it's just another epistemology or a way of understanding really the same thing that I think that many different cultures have understood for since time immemorial. Right? It's just an interesting perspective on it. And it can encourage people to go out and be interacting a little bit more. And it's interesting when you learn a little bit more. Like I don't know nearly as much as you do, I'm sure, about the various plants that are growing in the forest. But even my little bit of knowledge that I do have, when I'm sharing that with people when we walk, it's they start seeing things. It's quite birds. Like I was never a big bird person, but my wife's very interested in wildlife, and so I've started to learn a little bit more about the birds, and I can actually hear them differently. Like before, it was all just sort of amalgamated into one bird song category, and now I can, yeah, yeah, and I loved it, but to be able to pick them out now is quite fascinating, and to see the plant, it's like there's a whole world that we filter out as we get older, or that maybe we just don't understand even when we're younger. And it's just so interesting to see more shapes and textures and yeah, very very good. Mm. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I see it on my. Okay. Wow. They actually. Oh. Right.
And it's filled with birds, and we end up really seeing all the benefits that that garden has brought to the bird life and the pollinator life. And it's all of those things combined that brings us into like seeing how powerful and resilient the natural world is of caring for itself. Like humans get very anthropocentric and like, oh, we have to do this and we have to, no, the birds and
They're going to, you know.
are the biggest, the tiniest creatures are the biggest, hardest workers out there, and they're the ones keeping our earth balanced for us big giants compared to them, right?
Um,
So,
I that's I have um, unfortunately I just was made aware that the setup that I did for today's show cease. I have to
mhm,
apologize.
that's right.
I My audio was audible, but yours was not. I did just fix
Oh,
the problem, and so I'm very sorry. We just had an excellent
nobody heard
conversation,
anything.
and nobody heard anything for 50 minutes. So if I was going to summarize, I guess, a little bit, is that Cease is joining from Raven and Hummingbird. You were talking about your how you started the company many years ago. You teach, you walk the forest. You have had many iterations of your company. You went through a life-changing, I guess, injury where you shut down the company for a little bit, and you've brought it back. We were talking about how you work with your daughter. She was raised basically while you were running this company, and you now do the company with her, if I understand correctly.
Yeah,
And
she does all the marketing and the website, and she also teaches ethnobotany walks,
nice,
and
okay.
she actually works at the Wild Bird Trust in Maplewood Flats, which is in North Vancouver, and it's a bird sanctuary.
Nice,
Speaking of birds,
nice.
and it's
Speaking
filled
of
with
birds,
indigenous,
and we've been talking about birds and forest
yeah.
walks, and you did a really like an introduction in.
Sorry,
Oh,
somebody's phoning. I have to send them a message.
no problem. Um, and we were talking about what was the name for Labrador tea in Squamish?
Mokwam.
Mokwam. Okay, so we were talking about Mokwam a little bit, and we were talking about your thoughts on how it's ideal harvest times. You also brought up that one thing that really stuck out at me was that huckleberry plants that are as tall as you are, and you said you're 5'4", take like 200 years to form. I thought that was
Yeah,
absolutely fascinating. And then also you were talking about taking people on walks and how they would see things in a different way after you'd just shown them a little bit about what's out there. And so people who probably heard half of this conversation, well, I know they heard half of this conversation, but hopefully I filled it. If I missed any, I'm sure I missed something.
No, I think you did a good fast summary. That was great. You took 20 minutes and put it into 3 minutes.
So sorry.
That's okay.
You know what's terrible is this is not the first time. You'd think I would have learned my lesson. It's probably the 5th time, but oh my goodness, when it does happen, I
did a whole Zoom for like I'm an artist as well, and I don't know if I said that, but I'm a interdisciplinary artist, and I work in land-based work. So I actually plant cultural shaped motifs like mounds. I create mounds and cultural motifs with indigenous plants, and that's one thing I do. I was on the cover of Canadian Art Magazine last year with my big garden in Chinatown that I did, and
that's awesome.
Montreal to do one there. And so, and I did a big land-based, so even though I've been like not doing the tea company, I've been very immersed in my art practice, and that's actually been carrying me through.
Very
and
cool.
I did a big project with my colleague who's Dene, and she and I did a project called A Constellation of Remediation, and we were basically focused on restoring and remediating sites around the city through indigenous plants. And so through the plants growing, they pulled toxins out of the soil, and we didn't harvest any of it for ourselves, but we kept the seeds and we were passing them out. And it also, but it really doubled and tripled and probably even more increased the pollination and bird life on these sites.
Oh, very cool.
And so, yeah, so it's like I'm really dedicated to the land. And,
no, that's really inspiring.
So I have an art practice based around it, but I also do indigenous futurisms, and futurisms are around augmented reality and virtual reality, mixed reality work.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Indigenous futurisms, altered reality. What is this? I've never.
Augmented reality. One of the ways I can basically describe it is like the Pokemon game is an augmented reality game where you can take your phone and see an augmented reality piece. It's a very popular game, even though it went up and went down, it's back up again. You know, and it's so creating. I'm working with a scientist in London right now, and we're producing a series on vacciniums, which are huckleberries, blueberries, cranberries.
Oh, wow.
So I'm building models of these plants and berries, and doing ethical and cultural teachings around it, and she's doing the scientific knowledge part. And so I'll be in the Push Festival tomorrow promoting the project that I'm working on over the next year to build into a bigger project where you'll be able to download it and see it on the land, these giant berries.
You know, I am fascinated by the idea of food forests. And that's a topic that you were speaking on a little bit at the tea festival, and it seems connected to what you're talking about right now. I've always felt that gardening in general, you know, like I'm like, you know, it's just so, you know, I guess it's important for developing a certain sense of connection on the land that you're living on, and I think it's important, but it just seems so critical to also understand the foods that grow naturally in the environment, and interacting with them seems such and harvesting seems such an interesting I guess practice. If you had I know we talked about this a little bit the festival. If you were to have some words for people watching that are also interested in this process, what are some ways that a person can go about this and stay ethical and stay sustainable and stay conscious of the fact that, you know, this whole the politics of settler and First Nations and wanting to respect that as well. Do you have any suggestions for somebody that was interested?
So many suggestions.
Okay.
I mean, because I have grown and continue to nurture this food forest in our community.
Hmm.
And I found out through different research that, in fact, there are archaeological studies proving that indigenous people planted food forests next to their village sites all the time, even though we had massive forests. But
Hmm.
we would literally bring seeds back with us and scatter them close to us, so we wouldn't have to go as far to
Right. Yeah.
to go gather our favorite berries.
Nettle plants being traded.
Nettles and yeah, and
Yeah.
all these plants that have been, a lot of them are berries. That's the biggest thing for Pacific Northwest Coast people. And really, I think I've met women from who are Inuit women who when they've come down here and I've shown them berries, they're like, they talk endlessly about berries. So I think berries are a really important part of indigenous people's diets really around the world.
Makes
And
sense.
so, like we're very obsessed with our berries and we like our
Very
favorite
obsessed.
berries
Very
close.
obsessed.
We're very obsessed with, um, we like them
Nice.
close by. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what's really, when we think about it, it makes a lot of sense to grow the things you love the most
Well,
close to you, right?
the clams even. I remember in the clam beds that are been created on the beaches where boulders have been rolled out for thousands of years, and created these really long beaches for harvesting. The fallacy of the English conquering horridness, um, uh, with this idea of Terra Nostra, was that land was not being utilized, and obviously that is not the case, especially if there's just a little bit of study and understanding. But there's a huge body of work that's growing more and more. Even if your perspective is purely anthropological,
Yeah.
that's proving this fact that has been spoken about and discussed for a long, long time. I mean, this idea for where I live here on I guess Songhees territory is downtown Victoria, right? Um, is a Beacon Hill Park,
Yeah.
and when they're like, oh wow, I can't believe this unmanaged landscape is
And while
unmanaged,
there was like
but it's Camas Farm, like
camas
yeah,
ecosystems
yeah,
there, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and it's just about, I just see that foraging has become really popular, and it really kind of terrifies me because everybody's become an expert, and then they all go out and then
Mm,
they all think they're doing right, but then by removing so much of the fungi and lichens and plant matter, they are affecting wildlife. And
mm,
when we look at the whole world and how we've only got 30% of a wild planet left, the natural world is shrinking
mm,
and human populations are still growing. Like it
yeah,
just like it seems like
very,
the natural thing for us to start building food forests everywhere. And
yeah,
then if we're going to sustain what we want, we have to contribute back. And as an indigenous plant gatherer, I've always been told by all of my teachers, you can't take without giving back. And
mm,
so, we built this little food forest. It was mostly the elders. They showed up with all these plants and I planted everything they told me to. And then they were like up to my hips. So I'm about 5'4", like I said.
yeah,
So like, they were like 1 or 2 feet high, and now it's a canopy. And like I said, the
nice,
bird life tripled, probably quadrupled, maybe even more so in that zone.
yeah.
We'll be standing around gardening, and then hummingbirds are whizzing by us, and flickers are singing in the trees, and
You look
and
at
we
my
do have eagles circling above us. It's really magical, like, and we are bringing attention to the bird population through that work. And we've had bees. I've introduced ladybugs, and every year more bugs show up. So with the beneficial bugs showing up, the
hmm
bird life increases. And of course, we discovered after several years we were on a massive anthill, and people are like, "How do we get rid of them?" I said, "Don't, just let them do their thing." And then I discovered that flickers love to feast on ants. And I have
okay,
noticed that since the flicker population increased around our site, the ant population went down. And
which
so it's controllable now,
yeah,
and it's
okay.
balancing itself out. And we're actually in what was the original riverbed of the Capilano River system.
Oh wow,
And
okay,
so now it's the estuary moved over when they built the Cleveland Dam up by Grouse Mountain.
okay,
So it changed the landscape. And so it literally took us several years to create rich, dark, humus soil. And part of it was laying out mushroom beds.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so that brings me to that part of the of food forests is like I order spores and spawn online, and they come and we spread them through the garden,
Mhm.
and then it attracts other spawn and spore that are like, hey, there's like mushroom friends over there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and then they
it's
just come and
really
hang out. That's cool.
interesting.
Okay, it's
We're seeing like people in our community are finding different kinds of mushrooms that they've never even heard of, and so our knowledge base is starting to grow again,
that's
and
exciting.
it's deepening our relationship to the land through the things we observe and the things that we see, and how the land really is remediating itself with our support. So
There's
food
a role to
forests,
play, right? Like,
yeah, so food forests are a way to help your whole environment. It doesn't just help you as a person that wants your own berry patch,
right?
like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I want my little shade canopy over here. And through, it's like when you do go for, I see the forest as our teacher. We go out there and we see how things look, and we just do our best to mimic it. And, through permaculture design and philosophies and
Hmm.
implications, we can recreate forests that are very healthy, and then on their own they naturally bring the other elements that they require because we've created the environment and built it. So
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
think we're really moving away from this green lawn aspect
Yeah,
to people wanting. I see it all over Vancouver, where I used to see lawns and now I see little mini forests on their
makes so much
front
more
lawn.
sense. You should see my
And
house
it's like
from Google. It's like just trees, and then
like
there's
green, like,
nothing
where's the
around
house?
us. Nothing around
I
us.
think that's a building in here. Yeah, and so with that, it increases your air capacity, so
Yeah.
your oxygen becomes cleaner, and
You
the
know,
bird life,
you've heard
all of these things,
the
everything
invention
harmonizes, right?
makes sense.
So
The amazing invention. It sequesters carbon dioxide and releases oxygen, and it and it works all on its
all the
own. You don't need
forest.
to power it with electricity or anything. It's called a tree.
Yeah, some friends of mine bought property in Maple Ridge, and they're when you look at the map, it's all like cut down, and then there's this strip of forest, this
Where they
rectangular
are, yeah, that's like our
where
house.
they
Yeah.
are. And I went walking through their property, and they have they have ancient cedars in there that I
Wow,
was like, what the heck? You have your own carbon sequestering zone right here. And they were just like, yeah. And they had maple trees that were massive, and just
that's awesome.
not just a thin, not
Oh,
just a thin layer of moss, but it was like probably 1 or 2 foot thick moss on these maple trees that were bigger than some of the cedars. And I was
that's
like, you
amazing.
you guys won the lottery here. Like I said, these are the types of forests I look to take people for walks in, and
And
so lots of salmon berries, thimbleberries, and there's mucky, swampy areas. So I told them I can help them with bringing in indigenous plants to fill in the gaps, to just manage those wetlands areas, and to
right,
help where it just looks beautiful all the time. And we've got
uh,
some skunk cabbage in there and some nettles, and yeah, and so but I said you really don't have to do much. Your forest is really maintained back here just by being what it is. And so
sometimes I
I
feel
think
like all I can grow is mushrooms and moss, but hearing you speak, I'm just like, okay, like we're very fiercely protective of the area that we're living in. It's so beautiful,
mhm.
but we don't get any light, so it's very hard but I guess if you just,
Yeah, you just grow shade plants,
yeah,
and
it makes
if you
sense.
have even one cedar tree on your property,
We have 27.
well, then throw a bunch of red huckleberries in there.
Amazing, yeah. Why
Yeah,
not,
and
right?
you'll just see that they will really thrive
That's
because
cool.
they are companion plants. They're actually in a plant guild. That's how you say it in permaculture speak.
Right.
But
Yeah. Companion plots. I
they're
want to just
real.
pause you for 1 second, Cease. I just
Yeah, I
want you
see that
to,
there's
yeah,
somebody that's
yeah,
joined us, and
yeah.
I
So
I was
there's
like, oh,
yeah.
somebody.
I think I mentioned in the email that we're joined weekly by Sherri from Sister Speak Music. Sherri Ann,
Hello.
she's we are tea sponsors for her tours around the world. She's also my sister,
Oh,
so there's a bit of
fantastic.
nepotism there. But she's when it's
Always
not
support your
always
family.
important, and she's great.
Yeah.
She's just it's almost embarrassing how amazing she is with her talking about us in her marketing and stuff too. It's very sweet, and she's on her third album. She's does hundreds of shows when it's not the pandemic every year. Career musician, and it's lovely to have her here in Victoria
Yeah,
right now.
you sound familiar, so yeah, let's hear from you.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi.
You're talking.
I, I've just been glued to what you've been sharing here. So thankful because that really is, I think, how we can, yeah, try to figure out how do we survive for generations to come, and it's so inspiring to hear about like what plants can help with the wetlands and different regions. That's the dream. Um, we're working on both coasts to try and figure out land on each spot, even just a small plot to grow. And also like how to do it and how to learn and relearn and unlearn all those things together for figuring out how to actually do this in a way that's going to really be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, yeah. When she says we, she's talking about her partner there.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. So,
I,
but
I figured that.
yeah,
Don't like to assume, but there are times when it's easy to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
connect those dots.
No, no, it's definitely the dream.
Where do you live? And sorry, what was your name?
Sherri Ann.
Sherri. Okay, because it just says sister speaks, so I was like,
Oh, sorry. And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
cease.
Cease. Okay, wonderful. So I live part time right now in Victoria and part time in Vermont
Oh, nice.
on the East Coast. Yeah, so having to relocate and figure out a new West Coast home due to a recent apartment fire. That was my first experience living in an apartment, which was intimidating because we had a little porch garden, but it's like at some point apartments aren't going to make sense, and they don't make sense anyways. But um, so it's like trying to figure out how in a place like Victoria and Vancouver, like where to start with the like you're talking about the basically like the forest food forests, like where to start when like in Victoria. I'm so curious, like it's crazy because trying to even just like a quarter acre or like an eighth of an acre to grow food on, like how do we do that when it's like
Start with
$1 million?
you start with
What's
the forest, and then you add some indigenous plants, and then you get some chunks of logs like alder or maple, and you inoculate them with mushroom spores, and then uh, they start to grow, and it starts to cleanse the air. But then through doing that, it creates this clean zone that other spores find their way. So yeah, I found a fairy ring outside of my mother's house in her backyard of um, false morels, and they're so funky and fabulous looking. And I was like, "What are these?" And I was taking pictures, and I went on my mushroom group on social media, and I got tons of responses, and everybody's
Oh
saying,
wow.
"Oh, it's such a blessing." And I'm like, I haven't even seen these in the forest, so it was exciting to see it just growing in my mom's yard. And I've been kind of like my dad when before he passed several years ago, he did a lot of really great natural gardening. So I know that ground has just been very rich in soil, and then now has mosses. And then I put a friend gave me a hemlock tree as our Christmas tree when my daughter was like 3, and now it's a massive tree. She's like 27, so it's this massive tree now,
Oh,
and it's housing hummingbirds and other birds. And so again, the birds really attract things with birds and bees. You end up with mushrooms, and you end up with lichens and all these things that come and form, because hummingbirds especially actually make their nests. You'll love this. The things they make their nests with, they're natural weavers, but they also use as their main source lichens, so leafy lichens. And then they collect spiders' webs and weave them in to hold their little nests together that are like around this wide and this deep. And it's very, I watched a video, I don't even know how this person caught this on video of this
Wow.
hummingbird weaving its
It's amazing.
spider's web into this nest. And
I look at birds' nests and I'm just like, yeah.
it's just so beautiful. And then I realized when the lichens are there, they spread from that.
Very cool.
So that's like that's an inoculation unto itself. So they're natural inoculators of and lichens are a type of fungi too. So it's just really cool how things connect. And birds are wondrous beings. We get to hear their songs, and of course some of them sound funny, but I think it's really funny. Like our word for heron is
Okay, that's very onomatopoeic.
Sound they make.
Sounds exactly like what
beautiful, this beautiful, like graceful model like bird, and it's like
that's funny.
You're not a songbird, but you make really cool sounds.
Yeah, if I it's actually, that's actually what got me singing, is the quote that not every songbird if every bird in the forest sounded beautiful, if you only let those ones sing, there wouldn't be a lot of birds in the forest.
Yeah, I know.
Singing, yeah, that's true.
You need all the sounds.
You need all the sounds, yeah.
You need the tough.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I self-identify with that name for the bird there for for my singing.
You can change your band name to Blue Heron,
or something like that. I want to use the Squamish name though. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Making some tea there.
We have some tea. I thought maybe we could, while we're talking, Sherri Ann, we were able to pass her along some tea too.
Great.
And we
I
could.
have some tea.
So I have the Kanaka Ranch. I believe we made the other one with the hibiscus with you when you were on the
Love Me. I'm drinking the Love Me tea today.
Okay, all right.
And we have Kanaka Ranch. And so the Kanaka Ranch, the name is, and the tea blend is an honor to my Coast Salish and Hawaiian ancestry.
That's right.
So
that's
I actually
the one we made,
live
isn't it? It was this one that we didn't make. I think I got confused. We haven't had the Wild Coast Wild.
West Coast Wild, yeah.
Sorry, West Coast Wild.
Too.
Which one do you want to do? And sorry, I don't want to interrupt you so much there, Cece. If you want to talk to us about both of these, and then you can choose.
What are you gonna make, Sherri?
Well, I gave Sherri Ann sorry, I shouldn't
Yeah.
Oh, I actually don't know which one you gave me. I'm excited about it though.
Well, see, I had intended to give you the West Coast Wild. Are you still in Nootka Court?
Yeah, I'm just upstairs actually. I was gonna see if I might be able to get a refill of the hot water. I think it kind of cooled off.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we get you some? Cece, I'd love to try the one that I haven't had, which is the West Coast Wild. I've had the Kanaka Ranch, which was awesome, and I drank all of the Labrador tea, or I keep forgetting the name for it, which is what I would.
Well, we say mukwam, but we call that one swamp tea.
Swamp tea. Okay. So I drank. We drank all the swamp tea. That's honestly, I'm super excited about that. But I also am. This is all locally harvestable, isn't it? The singing nettles, mint, dandelion root, rose hips, burdock root, hawthorn berries. That's so exciting.
Wow. That's like
stuff you would find in the forests on the West Coast. And
did you harvest all of these? Or is this?
Some of it I harvest. Some of it I buy, sell, trade, gather. I have networks. Like if I can't get, I don't like to overpick areas. So sometimes I'll ask people to sell or trade things. Like some people want me to just send them blended teas, and then I get this package of teas in the mail that I can process. And so I've gotten Labrador tea from all different parts of the Pacific Northwest coast, from Lund and up the island and central interior. It grows everywhere. It grows all over North America. It's funny that it has the name Labrador tea, because it actually grows everywhere. Yeah. And it's just like wild rose is often called Nootka rose, but it also grows all over North America. So sometimes I get my rose hips in the central interior, because if I'm traveling up there in the late summer, they'll turn red sooner than they do here because it's really hot up there. And
interesting.
Yeah, and I've started a little nettle patch in our garden because it's not always easy to access good nettles. So I had to actually try a bunch of different areas around the garden so it took me a few years to find the perfect magic spot to grow our stinging nettle, but I found a kind of marshy area that gets a good amount of sun, not too much, just a good amount. And so now I planted that last spring with some SFU students. With all the work I do, I actually got, I have for the last 5 years had support from SFU ethnobotany department because I
very cool.
teach classes there once a year. And
Wow.
my good friend who actually lives in Victoria, his name is Bob Bendingris, and he's a really great ethnobotanist. And he decided to start bringing his students to our garden, and they do massive work for us every year. So we have these ethnobotany students that know what they're doing, and they're
Nice.
excited to get in there and
Harvest together. That's exciting.
Wow.
it's like, oh, we can actually get work done. And
that's so cool.
so, yeah, they helped us to do so much work over the last few years, and they're always really enthusiastic about it. And and I'm just like a queen bee and getting people to come to the land and like, let's work. And it sounds funny, let's come and work for fun. It's like, they love it. It's like, I'm learning through school, learning what I'm doing, and then they can take that applied knowledge back to to their homes or communities.
It makes a lot of sense. Like, honestly, I'll be straight up, like I'd be there in like a heartbeat. Like well, me and my wife, we've gone to help the tea farmers that we work with in Japan.
Oh, great.
And
yeah,
we've gone
I wanted to do like,
and we put the mats over top, and we're helping with the shade growing process, and we're like participating, and it's so much fun. And of course for them, he's like, well, I really need help right at this harvest time, and that's great.
And then you show up and they're like, we love you.
Yeah, it's good, right? It's a good feeling. Well, I mean, there's a certain amount of pressure. You don't want to be that help that's not really help.
Yeah.
Like,
I've had that help.
Yeah.
I've had good things when they leave, but
so it's like, okay,
we're ethnobotany students because I know they know what they're doing, and they've been studying it, and they they don't know, they know the questions to ask, and they're not afraid to ask because they're students. And and so my friend always gives them good grades if they show up.
Nice.
Like if they show up to help us, they already get good grades.
That's awesome.
They're dedicated. But I've had people say, I've never gardened before, and I'm like, how are you? So you're going to be an ethnobotanist and you've never gotten your hands dirty? Okay, this will be
there's always
so interesting.
There's a beginning for everything, like that's
So we get through it, And,
well, I mean, sometimes it's how you're. I guess it's what you grow up in, right? So it's you can be just surrounded by cement and drywall, and then it's your first,
and asbestos.
I'm so gentle with people that haven't had a lot of experience. I give them really simple activities that are a bit repetitive, so they'll either get bored or they'll be like, "I'm really getting good at this."
Well, I had a friend in Japan who there, I think it was like a younger brother or something like that. The story is a little bit faded in my brain, but the younger brother wouldn't eat potatoes that were dug out of the earth because he thought they were dirty. He only wanted potatoes from the supermarket.
He didn't know they grew in the ground.
They're like, it's the same thing. They all grow in the ground, man. And he's just like, no, they're too dirty. I saw them come out of the earth. I can't do it. It's like the opposite of what we want, right? Like, come on, like you see, like that should be connective.
Potatoes are the easiest things to grow. You just throw them in the ground and forget about them, and then the next thing you have,
man.
Oh my gosh. Well, if you do ever want,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, if you did ever, I don't know a lot, but I would be very excited to volunteer at some point. I'll actually, because of our apartment fire, my spouse and I are moving to Vancouver for 6 weeks this weekend. So I would be totally stoked. So
get my contact from your bro there, and then we can talk. We're getting ready to start going back. The ground is still frozen, so we're not doing much, but our garlic is doing its thing, and I'm really happy about that. It's popping up. And
cool.
We managed to get big garlic beds laid this year for the first time. I've been trying to do that for years, and we've had little patches here and there, and then
we got some in too.
I built through COVID. At least I might have shut down my tea business for a while, but I built a big, wonderful, highly skilled network of community garden volunteers that just love coming to do things, and we all make food and hang out outside, and it's socially distanced is very easy because it's an acre and a half, and
Nice.
We have lots
Wow.
of areas we can all like make food and sit. We don't have to be squished together. And, and there's a greenhouse. So when it's really cold, we send people in there and keep them dry and warm. And I've had people going, I don't know what I'm doing, but I can plant seeds. So I show them the whole setup. Here's the seed trays, here's the soil, here's the seeds.
Yeah,
What
go
do I
at it.
do?
Yeah.
Put one in each one. That's all you have to do. And so I let my granddaughter do one, and it was just like she just took a little tobacco seed head and squished it, and then it was just like a whole bunch. So I got these ethnobotany students to take apart they were like tiny little tobacco seedlings, and they just separated them and replanted them. And I was like, see, you're bored, but you're very focused.
It's good. It's good.
And then we had more tobacco, but yeah, it's like there's something for everybody. Like when my granddaughter was much younger, when she was 3, she only just wanted to water things, but she'd only want to water one plot for the whole day. So like, what about this plot over here? No, I want to do that one.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So there's help and then there's help.
Yeah, so I give her the driest spot to water.
That's hilarious.
There in water, but now she's like 5, and she's expanded her horizons in the garden. She loves coming to the garden. Like she literally I picked her up and she's been grumpy, and then we go to the garden. She's just like,
That's hilarious.
and she just runs around and plays, and it's a nice safe place for her. And that's how it is for all the kids in our community. They really like having a space they can walk through and eat food and hang out and play games, and that's what food forests do. They create natural spaces for people to be themselves, right?
When I hear food forests, I often think like non-timber forest products, or like going out and into an actual forest and harvesting for food. But what you're talking about when you say food forest is it's a little bit different from what I had initially thought, and it's really interesting.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It could be whatever you want it to be. Like it's for who. Like you can define it however it works for you. For me, I think of, I do have in our food forest. I'll list some of the plants. We have hazelnut and red willow. We have ninebark and ocean spray. We have thimbleberries, salmon berries. Wow. We have wild ginger, several types of ferns like maidenhair fern, licorice fern, sword ferns. We have chocolate lilies and pecan lilies, and we have wild roses and cascara. So these are some of the things
sounds like a forest to me.
It's like the size of somebody's small backyard, but
if I was going to clarify what I meant, is that it's really interesting because I think that sometimes when I think of, say, wildcrafting, it's this idea of going into a wild forest and harvesting, whereas what you're talking about is a lot more participatory, which is helping to create something that's not just this annual thing that with no attention is going to die next year. You're actually participating in not only in creating an environment that's going to produce food, you're also creating an environment that is that's part of this rehabilitation, or it's like it's bringing it's a very long-term way of interacting with food, and I think it's
slow love story.
Yeah, it's great. That. Yeah, I'm really inspired. It's actually, I've always thought how interesting it would be to get some mushrooms growing in my backyard, because it's definitely the environment for it. Yeah, they're totally.
You won't even believe how easy it is.
Yeah, I just need to do it.
It's not that expensive either. Like you can have a lifetime supply of reishi and shiitake and oyster and lion's mane and
all the
turkey tails, chicken of the woods. You can do all of that in your, even on a balcony. You can do that. Like it's amazing.
Wow.
People do that in their living room window, right? Like
I know.
Yeah, it's awesome. But I just like this. I actually really am inspired by this reinterpretation of what I thought going into this conversation was a food forest. So I find that very to clarify, I find it very inspiring, and it makes me feel more like I can play a more active role in my immediate environment. And it also works with this idea of circular relationships, right? Where you're not just taking, you're giving. And that's something I've always really wanted to do, and I'm just trying to like
It's a really
figure out
great
how to do that.
reciprocal activity, and it, you know, like I said, it's like you benefit in so many ways. You get to hear songbirds. You get to be discovering something every season that's going on in your little food forest.
Yeah.
You on really hot days, like in our heat dome last year, like I had to be away. So before I left, I was watering our little food forest every day because it was so dry.
Yeah, it was a hot summer.
But as soon as I would do that, all the birds would show up, and I'd get hummingbirds flitting around me, literally, and just it was like I'm pointing the hose into the forest, and these hummingbirds were dancing in the rain.
Oh, that's super
Rain.
cool.
Wow.
I was like, I'm giving hummingbirds a shower. Oh my god.
Wow.
That must have felt so
Like,
magical. That's
I know,
awesome.
you just stand there frozen because you're like, you don't want to scare them, and you just want to enjoy that moment. But when it's damp in the forest, you get a good hour of cool air that you're, especially on a super hot day, that you can just stand in there, and it's better than air conditioning any day of the week. Like
It's
you're breathing
trees.
fresh air, and hummingbirds are hanging around you. And
I swear,
just
this is the answer to
Wow.
the climate crisis. Is just
yeah, grow more food.
grow more food, plant food forests. Just
Yeah.
like this is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the audience can see that. Okay, but that is the tea that I was just about
There
to
we
make.
go. Yep,
Yeah,
that's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
where we
right.
can
So we're
see it.
doing this one right here.
Yeah, you have the correct one in the end. I was able to confirm
Okay.
that. I thought I'd given you the wrong one, but JV was able to confirm that was not the case. We gave you the right
Mind
one.
if I come get a little more hot water?
Yeah, come get more hot water for sure. Yeah.
All right.
And I guess I was planning on just using off-boil water, like 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a plan? Okay, cool.
Sounds good.
And then I was gonna put, I was gonna make it quite strong. I was gonna do like 4 grams of.
However you like your tea, you have it.
Okay.
I always tell people 1 to 2 teaspoons or tablespoons, depending on the size of your teapot, but always make it to your choice flavor, right?
Well,
Some
if
people like it really strong, and some people don't like it very strong.
How do you make your tea, out of curiosity?
Well, when I'm making a pot of tea, I just, you know, I prefer the loose leaf and strain it out. But if I don't have anything to strain it with, I put it in a little cloth, cotton muslin bag, and then
Okay.
for a pot that size, I would put about 2 tablespoons worth at the most, and then just like you're doing,
Just
let it infuse, and then when it looks dark enough, it takes 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's perfect. And I like
Okay.
it in a glass container like that because you can see it, but also it doesn't have any residue it leaks out. So, of course, ceramic or glass, they're much better than metal, and definitely better than plastic any day of the week. And so, yeah, but
That makes sense. It makes sense. You know, I have done some tests with plastic and with glass and ceramic myself, and I totally agree with you. You know, what's interesting though is using teapots that haven't been glazed on the inside, and they're not
yes,
they're not
they're very
bad,
porous.
but they're actually great. They're actually a really important part, I think, of tea culture. But it's interesting to devote one of those pots to a particular style of tea because it does take on some of the residue.
Aroma,
Yeah, and so then or at least it contributes something to the liquid, even if you're not picking up aromas. If it's not like the scratches in plastic that kind of do that. There seems to be a role that open clay plays in changing the nature of the water that's extracting the tea, and so you actually get kind of a different charge to the water, or a different, I don't know how to explain it, maybe there's increased mineral content or something, but it does interact with the tea in a different way, and it can actually transform how the teas taste. Whereas if I have glass, or if I have a glazed teapot, ceramic, etc., it's generally pretty consistent between those vessels. But yeah, and I've also found that bulbous shapes play a nice role, like the shape of the teapot.
That's a really nice teapot.
It works, hey? Yeah. It's
Yeah, I love it a lot.
It's just a little little 6-ounce teapot, and it seems to do the trick for tasting teas in a way that's not changing the nature of the water like the open clay ones would. But again, it's interesting again to taste them that way. I'm not a big fan of plastic, just like you, but I am a fan of tasting in say like one of these glass teapots versus say like a Gaiwan or a different like a one of my favorite teapots in the whole world is this guy right here.
Oh yeah, those are fab.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
And it's definitely not glazed. It's Yixing, so purple clay, and I just love it so much. Or in Japan, it's really popular to use these ones with the handle at the side.
Yes, those are fab. I
Yeah.
love. They're just so easy to pour.
Right?
Yeah. On the hand, like you don't have to be like.
You can just kind of do the one-handed, right? I mean, apparently, traditionally, like in the culture, you're supposed to use both hands, but I always
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to
you don't have
grab the handle. With
Yeah,
both.
yeah.
You can just hold the tea lid
really
on
light.
and pour it,
Yeah.
and it's just very nice.
I love it. And these one here,
That's a really sweet little pot.
isn't it
I
cool?
love it.
And it doesn't have a metal filter inside. It has a clay filter built into the teapot.
Nice.
So it's like
Cool.
I'm pretty
That
stoked
also
about
kind
it.
of cleans the water too, doesn't it?
I would imagine so. That's a good point. Yeah,
Purification.
there must be.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm at 4 minutes
Oh.
with this extraction.
you're gonna get lots of
Sorry.
steam in your face there.
Yeah, I just poured some nice hot water on my knee.
Oh no! Are you
I
okay?
did that last night. I
Oh.
a carafe full of tea, and it was in my truck, and I went to pull it, and it went right down on my leg. I'm like, ah!
Oh no.
I had to wait till I could put it down, and it's like this 100-cup carafe, and then I'm like holding my leg, and I'm like, somebody's gonna walk into the parking lot, and it'll actually look like I'm
Yeah.
way more obnoxious. But I'm like, oh! Just screaming, and then I'm like, okay, it's done. It's cooled down.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, it's scalding.
Oh man.
Person in parking lot with wet legs screaming.
Yeah,
They
it's
don't know
like,
what happened.
What are you doing behind your truck?
Yeah, nothing at all.
Just screaming.
Nothing to see here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope you're
just
okay.
ignore me.
You didn't scald yourself? We're uninjured?
Are you good?
Oh, yeah.
Sherianne?
Oh yeah, I didn't know you were talking to me. Sorry. I was off daydreaming as you're talking about how I spilled water all over myself on the way to work because I got my water bottle open and I showed up. My whole backside was covered in water.
Yeah. She's like
No.
this is not what you think it is.
It's tea. Believe me.
yeah.
It's tea.
It's so funny.
This-
I also
Go ahead.
sorry. I noticed that a lot of the herbs in this tea and also a lot of local species seem to be really beneficial for eczema.
Yep.
Is that because I'm noticing in a lot of the, like, especially Vancouver Island and Vancouver products, there's like nettle and like borage and like the Labrador tea is supposed to be really good too.
Yeah, well, Labrador tea, it helps your whole respiratory system. And then when you can breathe better, you're
Oh.
processing toxins out of your body.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so, a lot of what we ingest affects our skin, even though people don't always make that. But our skin is an organ, right? It's the only organ we can actually see. And it's the only organ that isn't just red. Every other organ in our body's red. But our skin comes in a variety of colors, as we know, in this beautiful world. And so, so what affects us internally shows up on our skin. So when we're not eating properly, our skin is telling us that the foods and beverages we're drinking aren't good for us, and that's how that we make those connections. So yeah, I've always really promoted people starting with their internal in order to fix their external. It's not just about putting a nice, wonderful salve on your skin to get rid of dry skin. It's about how much moisture are you feeding your body. And so it's like why, especially women need a lot more water than men. We have very active bodies. Never stop for like every part of our lives. And so our skin is very deeply affected by different stages of our lives and hormones, and yeah, so it's all these things that we can alleviate through drinking different medicines as tea. And You know, it's like the natural vitamin and mineral intake right there is the
Hmm.
teas that we drink. And then they, you know, so our cardiovascular can affect all kinds of things, right? It affects our, we have cardiovascular issues, we can get headaches and anxiety and other things. So calming down our cardiovascular system helps to alleviate a lot of stress in our lives and pain. And a lot of people don't know that things like, you know, any of the rubus family, like raspberry, salmonberry, blackberry, thimbleberry, those leaves, you know, a lot of people know them as tea for women when they're pregnant or on their moon or nursing, but they're actually for good for anybody. And they help all muscles. It's because it's a muscle medicine.
Oh,
And
interesting.
Ah.
you know, our uterine muscle, our uterus is a muscle, and it
Mhm.
contracts during moon time, but all of our muscles contract for different reasons. So drinking, you know, when you have a fever, your body is contracting, your muscles, especially your legs and your arms, and you're like, oh, everything aches and you feel sore. And then you
Right.
drink a bit of raspberry or salmonberry or blackberry leaf, and it just stops.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
so people are quick to pop a Tylenol or Advil or other
Hmm.
pain med to bring the fever down, but in fact, drinking those leaves can just can calm down the pain, and then drinking yarrow, as long as you're not pregnant, can lower a fever, right?
Oh,
So
interesting.
there's different ways we can deal with everything that calms ourselves. Drinking dandelion root calms down our digestive tract and helps with acid reflux or heartburn. So it also, again, it does affect our skin because our skin is an organ. And so everything that, you know, we're eating and drinking, if it's processing better, we're not getting hives, we're not getting uh, you know, as many heat rashes and things. If
Makes
we're
sense.
getting uh, anything that is rash caused, we can drink stinging nettle because it's a natural antihistamine and it lowers the histamines and rids them from your body. So it helps to get rid of, you know, those stressful things going on in our lives. But yeah, so there's different ways we can treat ourselves, and but
Mhm.
also, like, all of those plants are so high in iron and calcium that it it increases our energy and, you know, levels out the fatigue
Hmm.
and helps us, you know, to operate better. So all these things, like a cup of tea can just literally change your whole day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Singing to the choir here for sure. you,
Yeah, exactly, right?
you know, and for those watching too, like sometimes when you put together a bunch of well, like when you carefully put together a recipe of herbs for an herbal tea, the 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 resulting blend can often taste very unpleasant. But again, just like with the Kanaka Ranch, this one that I'm drinking right now is you can tell that you've spent not only time on balancing this out for how it's going to be therapeutic for your system, but it also tastes really good. So it's, you
Yeah.
know, they got the nettle giving it that kind of spinachy background flavor, and then you have the rose hips coming in with some uh,
Almost citrusy,
yeah, we did a blend once here,
citrusy
ca-
flavor.
It's
chamomile,
amazing.
rose hip, and nettle, and we were really stoked about it. It was just kind of a really nice calming herbal blend. But I just love how you've added in, yeah, the dandelion root and the hawthorn berries. My dad has high blood pressure, so apparently hawthorn
Oh,
is supposed to
great.
be really good for.
Hawthorn and rose hips together really, that's why I often blend them together because they work so nicely together and they really help. And
Yeah.
so I was noticing it's
Yeah.
almost 2:25,
Yeah, thank
so
you. Yeah, I wanted to get
hurry
this tea
up.
in, talk about it, and
I could talk to you too for
I
hours.
know,
You're
right?
fun.
Thank you. Too.
Yeah,
I
This
did
is
ask
so
for
an
only 45
questions.
minutes of your time, and we've gone way over. The first 50 minutes were silent, unfortunately, but
We
my
can't hear
apologies
shall,
again. Did you have any
shall we
final,
oh
maybe Sherry Ann, did you have a final question for Cease
Yeah.
before we,
I just was wondering if we would all be down to share the feeling that this tea is giving everybody right now.
thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one I'm drinking is Love Me, so I'm just feeling very loved.
Awesome.
It's
Cool.
good. Cardiovascular system really loves me for that today. How are you feeling,
uh,
Shannon? giving you.
This is like I'm like buzzing right now. It's like my body's like, thank you. I feel like it's just like you need to drink this more, like to help your skin and like. Oh, do we just have smoke exposure from the fire? So I've been doing it, trying to do a detox as much as possible.
Yeah, you got to clean out your whole respiratory system. Drink some of the Labrador tea, the swamp tea.
Okay.
That, that really helps open up your lungs and helps you breathe. It's also very relaxing. So
I'm gonna order
Yeah.
some right after this show. Go on your
Yeah,
website, right?
how about you, Jay?
Yeah, I started the day kind of at full tilt, and this has helped to really calm me down. So even though I saw the 2 o'clock, I wasn't like I was able to just kind of just let this let this ease to its natural conclusion. No, not at all. Like I've learned so much, and I love the conversations with you. I just feel like you're just a fountain of knowledge, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Cease, where can people find you if they want to go and purchase some of your teas, or if they want to perhaps get in touch with you for some of the walks that you do, etc.?
So we have our new website. I'm just going to verify it so I say it right because we've changed so much.
Okay.
Give me a second. I'm gonna read it
My
off.
phone might lose battery in the meantime. Just a heads up if I leave a little
Okay.
early. So forgive me. I got my eyes fixed.
Should I could even type it into the chat for you, but it's http //rhtea.co. So RHTCO. And and we also have some social media out there. Some people go on to our at rht.co for Facebook and IG, Instagram.
Okay.
And yeah.
I ended up putting up rhtco dot square dot site on.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Okay, because I went there and it wasn't what it was before. It's
No.
all good. No, it's bad. Okay, is it bad? Okay,
It's
is it
it's
the bad?
a anime porn site.
Oh no,
Oh no.
I
They have us, and we
They
can't
have-
get rid of it.
it looked
We have to
it,
start a whole new page.
it looks unhacked. I actually literally clicked on it. That's
Oh, maybe they fixed it. But it was like, oh my god, what is
I
that?
think it's been dehacked. So
Yeah, so
just
my daughter has done new labels.
Okay,
and
okay.
they are
oh wow,
this is
very
what-
cool. Okay.
yeah. This is like the lovely label, but we've started doing these with the stinging nettle as our branding. And yeah, and if you go onto Facebook, you'll find us too. So a lot of people have been she's been really promoting it through social media, and we've been getting like people from the States are ordering our teas.
What's
We're
your
like,
what,
wow.
what is your social media?
Amazing.
Your Instagram. Before we go, maybe we can just get that out there too. Do you have a? Is it just? I think it was Hummingbird Raven, or is that correct? Or
It's at rht.co. I'm gonna double check it.
at RHT.
Yeah, I'll check on my actual Instagram.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna
Just to make sure.
We'll follow you on.
Yeah, it is RHT, like RHTEA.co.
Okay, I've just
Raven and Hummingbird Tea Company.
JagaSilk has just followed you.
There we go.
Amazing. Okay, so rht.co and T spelt out TEA.
Yeah.
And huge appreciation. Okay, so it looks like we lost Sherri Ann. She did say her batteries were low and she might drop from the call if that's what happened. But thank you
But
so
I
much.
think she's enjoying her tea,
Yes.
so that's good.
I think so.
Thank you for this beautiful day. And
if people want to find Sherri Ann, sisterspeakmusic.com. The music is fantastic. Folk, world, reggae. She's actually doing some performances in Vancouver that pretty soon.
I'll
here
watch
that-
for her.
Yeah, you have to watch for her. And I hope to also get over there at some point, and I'd love to meet up with you and maybe have a cup of tea. But thank you so much, Cease, for coming on the show, and look forward to continuing to talk to you. And I'm gonna order up some marsh tea right away. Thank you so
right
much.
on.
All right,
Okay,
you take
ciao.
care. Okay,
You too. Ciao.
goodbye. Okay, so that was Cease Wyss and from Raven and Hummingbird, and we had Sherri Ann from Sister Speak joining us. We went a little bit long today, maybe making up for all of those short shows that we did last week and the week before. Thank you if you've hung in there. This was such an interesting and I think Cease's knowledge was really fun to listen to, and I look forward to working with her in the future. So thank you again. I'm Jared Nyberg. I am co-owner of JagaSilk. You can go and find us on jagasilk.com. You can click below, subscribe, click the notification button, and then when we do go live, which is every Thursday at 1, you'll be notified. There's also archived episodes here on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/JagaSilk. You can check out all previous 88 episodes. We're going to be on episode 90 next week. We'll have Adam Creek. This will be his second time on JagaVision. He's an Olympic gold medalist for Canada's rowing team in the Beijing Olympics, and he's since become a business coach, and he's got lots of great insights. We're going to be talking about plans for 2022. And then the week after that, a guest that wasn't able to make it a couple episodes back, Adrian Bronson, who used to own Serendipity Tea Company. He's going to be joining us live from Eastern Europe over in Austria. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. We'll see you again next week.